The reason why this spread like wildfire is because there's a lot of people that call themselves leftists that are libs.
Yeah.
I don't normally use that language, but I'm going to be really clear. If you genuinely think that listen to the voices of marginalized people should be taken as a gospel type statement, you are a fucking idiot. So, if you just want to focus on good vibes and the stuff that happened with Brianna, there's another video. You should go to that one. It'll probably come out before this one. Stay with that one. Please.
Yeah, about that. Yes, exactly.
Because, the issue we have is that there was a piece of discourse that happened that needs to be discussed. So, during the news about Brianna J's death, people started using the hashtag #SayHerName, which is basically a perfect thing. Because not only does it, one, ask you to properly name her and not dead name her, but on top of it, it also points out the her part, right? It actually allows for her gender to be recognized.
Especially on the, when various organizations are intentionally erasing her gender.
Correct.
Yep. Especially on that backdrop.
So, and then this happened. This lady posted a thread saying the following. #SayHerName is trending because people are using it for Brianna J, who is white, and I need you all to understand that that phrase and hashtag was created for black women who are victims of police violence. I've seen white people say that he didn't even know this, and that's extremely troubling because that means y'all genuinely do not care about black women, particularly black trans women. We'll come back to that. I'm going to be very frank. One of the reasons why we aren't where we are, where we should be in terms of infrastructure fighting against transphobia is because people have accepted the systems that facilitate black death because y'all have assumed it won't come for you. All right, so there are a bunch of arguments here that are real dumb. Let's get into this. So,
yeah, this is jam-packed worth of.
Oh no, it is the
Big
take
oofies.
5 is the take 5 of those fucking crazy amounts of shit in
Oh, it's a candy bar.
Yeah, the candy bar.
The take
It's
5
literally
candy
the
bars.
take 5 of bad arguments.
Yeah.
So
you
this
could
is
play fallacy bingo with this if you really wanted to.
So let's break this down as we go. #SayHerName is trending because it's being used for Brianna J. All right, so far you're still good. Who is white? True, she is a white girl. And y'all need to understand that phrase and hashtag was created for black women who are victims of police violence. This is where you stepped in it. So
The first time.
So really out the gate, we got to talk about this. So one, #SayHerName was also used as the name of a documentary in which discussing the disappearances and missing and murdering of indigenous women. Essentially what happened is that this discourse got started by a single woman of color and turned into a massive clusterfuck. Because one, it erased indigenous people. It was American centric, just like Fake Name said in chat. It was incredibly American centric. Holy crap. But again, this has been used for this documentary, which was talking about the disappearances of indigenous women. Basically, their areas are not heavily policed well, often deal with poverty, and so when women go missing or are murdered, they don't get investigated well. So the purpose of this was to essentially bring awareness to this problem. Connor Hensley said, if you want to go down a rabbit hole of missing Indigenous women, look up the Highway of Tears. I will do that another time. I do not have the spoons for it right now. So, let's see. What do we got here? So, I had already kind of waded into the fray, as I am known to do. And this is what we came up with on our server. So my moderator, Paco, did some digging. Turns out that we were right. Say her name is perfectly fine for us to use for Brianna, and here's why. Okay. This is Paco's quote. So I've been doing some digging on the history of say her name. As far as I can find, it was one of the hashtag initiatives started by the African American Policy Forum, the AAPF, and the most successful and longest lasting of them. However, the hashtag hasn't been used since 2020, according to their website. In addition, I was able to find multiple other organizations like the ACLU and the Human Rights Campaign, an LGBTQ advocacy organization, use it in context of trans women of color in 2017. A documentary regarding violence against and apathetic state defense of Native American women came out in 2021. We just talked about that. Mm-hmm. Finally, intersectionality has always been a key component of Say Her Name slogan and movement, according to Kimberly Crenshaw, the professor and activist that coined the term intersectionality and co-founded the AAPF. In short, Say Her Name may have had its focus on black women, but that hashtag has been used for non-black women both during and after the AAPF campaign, and one of the co-founders of the org is pro-intersectionality. And below we have a link on this. Mm-hmm. I want to be really, really clear that gatekeeping a hashtag is really dumb. My only responses I got to this, you can go look, I'll give you the link, was that I was lying. So many quote tweets super mad about the fact that they said I was lying. They basically posted the same link that I posted down here arguing about this.
Oh, no.
And by the way, the as far as I know, the AAPF still hasn't actually said anything about this. So, like, also, Say Her Name is race neutral. It doesn't make any mention of black women. I'm not saying that the deaths of black women against police isn't important. It fucking is. But the joke of this is that you are literally causing a fight over the death of a girl because you want clout. Because you want to gatekeep a hashtag. Going forward, I've seen white people say they didn't even know this. Well, that's because you're wrong. We just covered that. And that's extremely troubling, because that means y'all genuinely do not care about black women, particularly black trans women. And now you've stepped in it.
All over again.
One, this hashtag has been used for black trans women. It has been used for black women, but also indigenous women and just trans women in general. The ACLU has used this. So to some degree, this idea that this means we lead to this. Do you guys understand how this is like a red herring argument? Like it feels like ad absurdum almost.
Yeah. Well, then the big thing is too, right? Anybody can be trans. It doesn't matter, where you come from or what you are, anything. Anybody can be trans. And this just separates out that stuff, right? It ends up alienating us even more.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So what this does is not only is this just going for unnecessary levels of separation and disconnection within the left, but it's again still based on a fable, and it's based on an immediate assumption that our group isn't getting the resources we need. This is the same stuff that Dave Chappelle said, where there's this underlying argument that somehow like trans rights hurts black rights. This doesn't lead from this. Not knowing the origin of a hashtag does not mean you don't care about black women. This is tremendously stupid. And I'm going to be really clear. So far, this is incredibly intersectional. Because just because a trans woman is not a woman of color does not mean that she doesn't deal with stuff. I'll be really clear. I am a trans woman who is neurodiverse, disabled in some situations. I literally deal with 2 severe mental illnesses. And, oh yeah, by the way, grew up exceedingly poor. Like, again, just because... And I'm a woman. And trans. Like, well, yes, I don't deal with the problems that POC deal with, and that's fair. This doesn't reduce the actual pain and suffering I deal with, nor does it reduce the pain and suffering other people deal with as well. By her saying this, she's essentially erasing indigenous people. And that's really fucking weird. Like, yeah, someone in chat said, y'all generally don't care about trans women, or black women. No, you generally don't care about trans women. Absolutely. So she says here down at the bottom, I'm going to be very frank. One of the reasons why we aren't where we should be in terms of infrastructure of fighting against transphobia is because people have accepted the systems that facilitate Black Death because you all have assumed it won't come for you. Nothing about this.
This is just stepping in it all over again.
Yeah, nothing about this makes sense. You are saying... So you're making an assertion that we aren't where we're supposed to be. Okay, so where are we supposed to be? But then we're also, again, you have to actually demonstrate where we're supposed to be. But on top of that, accepting the systems that facilitate Black Death. But again, the hashtag isn't just dealing with the death of Black women. It's been used for that, and importantly so, because police do awful things to Black women. But awful things happen to sex workers, and indigenous women, and trans women, and so on, and so on.
LGBT kids, and all of that, yeah.
This is tremendously stupid.
There's so much history that's getting ignored in all of this, too. Like, gay men also dealt with just literally the police just rounding them up for the fun of it, like, especially in the 80s. That's why a lot of times you'll hear stories about how everybody carried whistles on them, because if one person started blowing a whistle, then you could summon all of the other people towards you that knew what that meant. So that way, if anyone was going home on their own, anything like that, it would be a safety thing, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of different stories like this, you know, spread throughout history in a multitude of ways.
So I want to know. Let's talk about 2 important things here. One. The reason why this spread like wildfire is because there's a lot of people that call themselves leftists that are libs.
Yeah.
I don't normally use that language, but I'm going to be really clear. If you genuinely think that listen to the voices of marginalized people should be taken as a gospel type statement, you are a fucking idiot. The fact of the matter is that no marginalized group is a monolith. Period. And to say that you know what they think is weird. But I want to show you, before we get into that part of the argument, I want to show you just something really important to me. This is the lady who started this. Someone decided to do a little research and found unambiguously Black people. You're not Black just because you have Black parents. Mixed people. I am literally shaking right now. I am literally having a panic attack. People argue over the precise definition and or distinction of white passing versus white presenting, like we shouldn't just stop centering mixed people and instead just center the Black people most affected by colorism, featureism, and texturism. Think about how corgis mixed with another breed is just the corgi cosplaying as them. Okay, that's really weird.
Go see our Pitbull video, by the way, because this analogy is really, really strange on a lot of levels.
It's super borked.
It's super
especially considering, again, the history of Pitbulls. It's really weird this is being used for this. Anyway, last I'll say on this is that you can't put off talking about the fact that there's an amalgamist, I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about, amalgamist agenda. This sounds like some kind of conspiracy that seeks to position mixed as the future and therefore position visible Black people as a barrier towards progress. This is what you all invoke by calling this divisive. No mixed people dropping their selfies to promote themselves on MLK Day. Loving V Virginia was a mistake. I don't remember what that case was, but let's move on. Presenting mixed people as being the solution to or the symbol of ending racism is just another way of arguing Black folks who are unambiguously so are not only a, but the barrier to the goal.
What?
This is indistinguishable. Indistinguishable from a fucking Nazi. This is indistinguishable from a white supremacist.
The Hitler particle counter is going over 9,000.
The Hitler particles are over 9,000. What, 9,000? Also, just to make it really clear of just how much a absolute, just awful person Tamisha is as a human being, is, let's talk about this. Palace Riot was a account that was, I think, over 10K or 14K followers, and basically said, do any of the mass block things work or has Musk wrecked them all? Can I block every motherfucking piece of human refuge that liked this somehow? Based and true-pilled.
So...
Like, this is just a good statement. And also, no, the mega blocks are all down because they screwed it all up.
They changed the API for how Twitter works, I think.
But Tamisha screenshotted this and said, hey, just in case I have any mutuals with this person, note that she's describing black trans people as human in quotation marks to dehumanize us. Nothing here is mentioning race. It is only saying that people agree with you are trash. This woman weaponized race as a way to bring fucking hell down on Palace. And guess what this led to?
No, we should probably tell them who Palace Riot is.
An activist online who had about 10 to 14K followers. I said this already.
Oh, weren't they also trans activists, though?
Yeah, they're trans activists.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't sure if we said the trans part, but, like, this is a trans activist.
It's
right
literally
here.
so you hate waffles. Yeah, it is literally that I like pancakes so you hate waffles. So, basically, Palace just destroyed her account and left. And she posted this, most likely in a moment of very real pain. And you know what? This is fucking defensible. Not in the sense that it's right, but I get it. It fucking hurts. Let's fucking go with this. Solidarity for or among trans people was always a lie. Trans issues and lives will never be a priority for enough people to matter. Not even among trans people. We can't even mourn our dead without some of us enabling transphobia for social capital. We're not going to make it. We've betrayed trans kids, we've utterly failed them, and we deserve whatever happens to us. Yeah, Palace Riot is a good take generator. True.
Well, and this is utterly a wake-up call for people. At least I would hope that you would take it that
This
way.
is I don't think I agree with this, but God, this is painful.
Yeah, but having a trans person in the community who does activism, like, God, activists are hope-pilled. Like, they are hope-pilled of the hope-pilled of the hope-pilled. Alright, you have to be to do this work, even if you're, like, kind of bitter and cranky about it, right? Like, we have to see a future of some kind to help get ourselves there, to help move society forward and do the work that we do. Okay, and so once you've gotten an activist to this point, oh, hi, Buns. This is a wake-up call for everyone else to go, wait a minute, how did we get this person here?
Yeah.
And I say we because fucking Twitter, alright? Because this person got harassed, alright?
So, why don't we, see what else happened? Jessie Gender. The woman who was one of the loudest people on Twitter complaining about the Wizard game. If you have seen our Offense versus Harm video tearing apart her real bad arguments, I highly suggest you watch it again, because it was based as shit and we like views. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you watch it, because we're not going to be covering it fully here. But in the midst of the Wizard game, I started seeing the Wizard game arguments die out because of Brianna's death. My feed started changing. And then this came about. Please use Dignity for Brianna instead of using hashtag say her name to mourn Brianna J. That hashtag is for black folks killed by police violence, for that community to mourn and fight. We white folks shouldn't steal it, especially as all of us, not just white folks, are in mourning. All right, so first off, I want to make everything clear. This is a regular problem with Jessie Gender. Go back a year and look at our videos. We covered one on the We Spa incident. Jessie Gender put out a video where she essentially talked about immediately like backpedaling for the sake of cis people who were upset about this controversy. And what ended up happening is we put out a video nicely saying, we think you didn't do enough research. Here's what we found. And she came out and basically was really nice about it and great. This is the same problem. A year later, she sees a tweet from a woman named Tamisha and decides to just agree with it. No research. No fucking actual critical thinking. Just white guilt personified. Yeah, how can we get dignity for her when her name's she's being neglected and dead named, right?
Well, and again, this is so, like, there's so much weird stuff in there, like, stealing it from them, or assuming that, like, it has this weird thing of, like, are black people just isolated somewhere? Like, no, we know them too. Oh, like, I live in a really white town, but you know what? We still did BLM protests here. It was still fucking important. Like, we're still joining in for that. That's still important to us.
Yeah, and so here's the problem is that out the gate, we'll go through each of these, but this first one is just, she was legit scared of people coming for her for standing with Lindsay. Oh, wait, Lindsay Ellis? Jessie was even scared just to outright say what happened to Lindsay was bad. Yeah. No, it's you go with whatever the main discussion is, because that is the way that you get popular. Moving on. First, after listening to black folks, the issue is how quickly white folks co-opted the use of this hashtag, co-opted. Second, how white folks got angry when this was pointed out, rightfully so, and would rather argue than listen because we were right, which feeds to drain us both of energy and ability to mourn. You started it. We are not fighting for Brianna's name to even be heard. That's a fucking lie. This is actively transphobic. I agree with Vosh on this. This is actively transphobic. She made news, and then her name was starting to be absolutely destroyed and she was being misgendered. What the fuck? The hashtag is for black women who were ignored by the mainstream. You mean like Brianna was? Brianna is being discussed. We are fighting for her dignity and death and her ability to be seen as herself, and for this not to happen. This is fucked on a couple levels. One, it feels very white savior to me. It feels very much like a way in which you're being the good one. Like, look at me, I'm the white progressive, I'm doing the right thing, I'm listening. Except you can't really listen to black folks. You can listen to individual black people, but the idea that you can listen to black folks in a general sense assumes, again, the monolith, that these people all have the same views. But again, just like that article that I think Vosh covered, we might cover it on the stream one of these days, if you look at demographics and actual surveys about different groups, they change their minds on things. They're not unified on topics. This is just the reality. And the reality, the problem with this is that not only does it have the white savior thing of I'm the good one, it also comes off as this very real feeling that she is able to speak on behalf of the black community because some black people in her community and her follows agreed with her. But if they follow her and they're in her community, then they already most likely agree with her. So what she's really just doing is sharing her perspective. This is a type of emotional manipulation. By definition. Like, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. I don't think she's malicious. I think this is stupid. I'm sorry. This is really frustrating.
Well, and the hard part is like, how do I even put there are a lot of people that don't actually understand intersectionality, like don't actually have a good grasp on that concept, and we really, really need people to do enough educating themselves, because unfortunately school doesn't teach you shit half the time to get there. Like, this is not that hard of a concept to understand intersectionality. Right? The idea that, like, everybody deals with more than one, kind of oppression, or more than one type of issue or type of thing, right?
No, abso-frickin-lutely. Oh, and Semi Locon just actually gave me that article. We'll cover more in
Oh, is this the one that Vosh went over?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, this was based.
This was
good.
fantastic. So I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but basically he makes a really good point, and he shows this. Let me bring it over to the screen. What the hell? There you go. Third, the majority of voices vacillate over time. For instance, since 1994, Pew has been asking Black Americans what they think is the most responsible for blacks not getting ahead, blacks themselves or discrimination. This is the breakdown over time. As you can see, in 1995, 60% of blacks thought discrimination was responsible for blacks not getting ahead. That number is now down to 40%, and the majority of blacks now say blacks themselves are most responsible for not getting ahead. In the meantime, this answer shot up and down, with blacks some years citing discrimination as the biggest factor and other years citing blacks themselves as the biggest factor. What should identitarian deference have demanded of us during those swings? Is it really the case that in the late 1990s we should have reformed our opinions and thought that blacks themselves were most responsible for not getting ahead, and then switched that opinion again just a couple of years later? And then switched that opinion again, yet again, in a few more years. Like, again, this is the stuff we're talking about, guys. Like, it is insane. So again, this comes down to the fact that it's almost like this appeasement thing. Like, essentially, what happens again and again is that there is a very real way in which Jesse has a gut reaction and says some stuff. And sometimes it comes out great. And sometimes it doesn't. And the problem I have with this, the issue I have with this, is that it, by definition, leads to these outcomes where she says something so incredibly weird. And my concern here is that this also speaks to an issue that I also have about the Hogwarts Legacy stuff, and Zena and I have talked about quite often. Jesse and a lot of other white trans women basically parroted this discussion with no critical thinking, and when they were called out on it, all of a sudden I was blocked on both accounts, right? But then I was also, just for shits and giggles, blocked by another individual who I will show here. One moment. So, Keffels, of course, came out swinging, as Keffelses are known to do. And Keffels said, "Nice try, FBI. This is literally a prime example of how progressives keep getting fucked over by elevating identity politics over any other sort of material analysis. Based and true." And so, Alyssa, a well-known individual who is a trans activist, said, "I think maybe people are confusing," or saying here, this is what her original tweet, sorry, there are two of them. So you were exactly who BIPOC kept telling us you were all along. Again, over a flag disagreement and noodles. Got it. Keffels is one of the biggest trans influencers I've ever seen on this platform. If BIPOC defining how they get to tell their own narrative offends her as a trans woman, there's wholly a... And then she goes on to say something stupid. I responded to her and said something based, as I am wont to do. And basically, something to this effect. Example number 353,553 of trans people throwing Kefalons under the bus for a pat on the back. Clara is 100% correct here, and Tamisha was actively minimizing the death of a child. Identitarian listening to marginalized people without critical thinking is actively toxic. She systematically blocked me and anyone that disagreed with her. And then basically posted this as a further tweet about this. I think maybe people are confused at the purpose of my tweeting this. It wasn't to turn into a debate on whether or not you're okay with accommodating space in your everyday for a hashtag. Take that shit somewhere else, please. So when she was confronted about being wrong, she deflected it. A trans activist who should know better. This is why this stuff... Also, yeah, by the way, what's this? This is a sweaty, casual reminder, this ain't it. I can't believe I have to say this, but that phrasing is copyrighted by black women. Please use another term to while being executed by your dictator. And again, here's an example of it being used in another country. Oh, she had a follow-up tweet calling trans people racist. Give me a screenshot somewhere because I can't pull it because I have her blocked. And again, I think everybody else should. The fact that she instigated, like... She instigated a fucking hate campaign against Paulus? No, just block her. Do not engage, do not harass, do not do anything. Block. The fact that this happened, the fact that this just turns off
people's brains
is... Oh, that's from Iran like 4 months ago. Yeah. Is mind-numbing. And again, we can even get on Jesse again for this. This is not related to the say her name thing. This is actually back to the wizard game. But notice it has the same level of sanctimony that the fucking say her name thing does. Again, there is no relative levels of harm or actual importance with things. Everything is equally important, so nothing gets done. This was sent to Keffels, by the way. I'm disappointed. I wanted to be with you, my friend, and I was on your side, but these past few weeks it's become clear that you're more interested in trauma than solidarity and praxis for us in our community. I'm gonna unfollow you and never talk about you from now on, because I'm not here to stoke infighting and drama. Man, that is the weirdest, like, alienation tactic ever. Like, okay. Like, the system wants and you're currently feeding.
What?
Jesse, you had hundreds upon hundreds of likes and retweets. You were feeding it just as much. And again, you were arguing with Hassan, one of the largest creators. What? Please, I do hope that you take a moment of introspection. I'm not here to fight you, and that doesn't help either of us beyond seeing the number go up. Because true trans people are fighting, and it creates algorithm-friendly drama. I wish you the best, and I hope one day we can work towards actual trans liberation instead of just feeding this system of egos. Does anyone else feel like this literally reads like fucking thoughts and prayers? Yeah, it's impossible to listen to an entire group. Absolutely. Oh, shit. There was a 14-part combo we missed of Keffels. Look.
Oh, you guys are so good.
Oh.
Thanks, everyone.
14 wiggles. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, this is tone deaf as hell. And incredibly shitty in hindsight. Like, why would you cut off from her and never talk about her again? Yeah, this is like a corporate email, like, we're sorry, we no longer have need of your services.
We will make sure that we erase everything about you, and you're not ever allowed to talk about us, because, you know, we made you sign some stuff.
Like, I need people to understand that, like, this stuff is weird. Not only that, but there was some evidence to say that, like... What was it? maybe we shouldn't gatekeep this shit in general, especially of oppression, minorities, and death. They wanted in fighting. Yeah, there was some evidence. Yeah, I think this says the N-word outrank the T-slur, the woke hierarchy. Yeah, like, I think, genuinely speaking, there were people who were from 4chan, because this is 4chan's font and stuff, basically pushing on this too. So, Tamisha, a known person who is against miscegenation, was also being essentially, unknowingly or knowingly, who knows, supported by a 4chan op, possibly. Again.
Hooray!
Hooray! I love it.
This is the perfect timeline.
Guys, there is nothing wrong with using that hashtag. And here's the issue with this that really bothers me, is that by not using this, by this being a problem, because we can't ever remember the other half. Do you remember the whole thing we talked about with, like, sexual assault victims? It's believe victims and then verify, because that's how you do things. In the same way, yes, listen to marginalized people and verify. The reason why we support certain groups is not just because they say so. It's because we have demonstrable information and data showing that their claims are correct. We know for a fact that there is systemic prejudice against black people. There is systemic... Oh, God, my voice just squeaked. Systemic problems with the way in which trans people are treated. We know these things because there's very real data that supports this. And the problem is that we can't just treat this like some kind of bizarre religion. This is the problem with the puritanical progressivist, is that it's evangelicalism as progressivism. It's blindly have faith, listen to marginalized people that happen to agree with me. It feels very Vatican. It feels very weird. And I want to be clear that past all this drama and frustration, this was the attempt of a marginalized person to try to obfuscate the death of a 16-year-old girl. She's literally saying separate but equal, but make it woke. Sparkle emoji. True.
Yeah.
Like, I would really love it if the trans community would stop weaponizing black trans women. I'm gonna be honest. We know black trans women deal with a ton of crap, and I do think that needs to be spoken about often. But let's be super clear. Oh, genderqueer is just a way to say the N-word? Oh, yeah, I saw that tweet too. But does Brianna's life not matter? Is because she was white and British mean that her life doesn't matter? Because I guarantee you her family, the many girls that she helped, including many girls of color, and the impact this has had on the trans community matters. But instead it was absolutely overshadowed. Why not a heathen? It happens in regards to a lot of, like, discourse in which when you're talking about, like, the GoFundMes of people or things like that, I've noticed there's a tendency to, like, only upsell or, like, retweet ones from people of color, specifically trans women of color, and sort of ignore other trans women, even if their circumstances are demonstrably worse than, say, the person of color. It's a very weird situation. And I think it honestly falls into the same thing where, again, with Twitter, again, it's the just believe marginalized people without ever verifying and understand. Yeah, no, I've seen this before, and it's a very subtle thing. Again, a wizard game mattered more, Poppy. I know, right?
Well, and this is... Wait, are we getting into that take yet?
Levels
of violence?
Fuck it. This is offense versus harm. Go. We're just talking about the wizard game now. Go.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Playing in video games is playing a video game, alright? It's a fucking video game. The 90s and the 2000s kept giving out studies trying to say that playing video games caused you to do all this stuff. Well, kinda, sort of, not really, okay? No, playing video games does not make you a shooter. That's stupid, alright? We know that. Alright? Playing a video game does not automatically make you a transphobe. It does not automatically, somehow magically, but you sitting at your desk with a controller in your hand, make you go out and do transphobic things or go harm a trans person.
Hey.
Anywho, with that in mind, Poppy's therapist made an interesting note.
So yeah, here's what the problem is. I have a secret. I'm trans. And the issue is that trans people are often traumatized. Because by our nature of being in society and being in the way we are in fact often traumatized. And here's the thing that I want to make really clear. When you are a person who's dealt with very real PTSD or complex PTSD, one of the effects of that is hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is a constant state of arousal where you're always looking for threats. And one of the things you have to understand is that when you are operating under a level of hypervigilance and constantly having a flood of cortisol in your brain, not to mention norepinephrine and a few other things, the prefrontal cortex doesn't work quite as good.
Mm-hmm.
Your judgment and discerning skills are not as good.
PTSD and trauma absolutely affect you also on a very real physical level.
And so the problem is that one of the ways that I think these situations, both Say Her Name and the Hogwarts Legacy debacle, happened was really simple. I think we look for threats even if they materially don't have any.
Or we...
In the case of, say, Tamisha, or how a bunch of white liberal trans women reacted, their hypervigilance led them to immediately assume they were doing a racism, or immediately assume that a racism was being done, and then just lash out. Or speak sanctimoniously to people. With the Wizard game, the question we kept asking everybody online was, where is the harm? You need to show me the material harm of this game. Is it a bad game? Yeah, it's garbage. Does it have some anti-Semitic underlying stuff in it? Sure, no argument. Does it? But again, numerous games have that stuff. Like, again, playing Overwatch involves loot boxes and a butt controversy from the first game. And oh yeah, Blizzard had incredible sexual harassment brought against it by the state of California.
Because it was so bad that literally the state just went, shit, we're involved now.
The problem is that, again, the game was bad, but it wasn't the thing spreading her message. Instead, what happened is the important thing, the death of a girl, the thing we should have rallied around. Oh yeah, and Blizzard hated the 2019 Hong Kong revolutionaries. Yeah, they loathed the fact that those two, what was it, Heroes of the Storm players, was it? Or was it the card game? I think it was the card game. Basically, like, protested, and then they lost their prize money and lost their...
They protested on stream as part of... as they were competing, right? Or, like, I think during their winning stuff, too.
Oh, Hearthstone, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, like, you guys have to understand that, like, there's always negatives. Like, how many companies use, like, insane levels of labor? Like, I'm not saying the game is good. Don't buy the game. But if you really want to play it, download it illegally, or...
I don't care if you do buy it, whatever. Like,
if you want to buy it, if you really want to get it, I don't care. I'm not going to judge you as a person if you really like it. Like, here's my problem. You have to show me where it does active material harm. Is it not a great game? Yeah. But you have to show where the material harm is. And in both of these cases, there is none. This is why the offense versus harm series is so important, because these are both issues of people being offended and conflating them with harm. And we're going to get to a third segment in just a little bit that's going to talk about an actual harm situation that I feel was overshadowed by these two issues.
Well, and so the thing is people have a lot of personal hurt over seeing J.K. Rowling's messages. And I get that. I do. But you know what? Have a talk with your friends and be like, I don't got hearing about this game. That would have been way more effective than everything else people did.
If you said to your friend, I'm offended that you get this, that's an interpersonal discussion. You have that. But to just broad blanket say it, like, there were literally people in Jesse's comments saying things like, if you buy this game, you want the death of trans people. Are you fucking kidding me?
People still watch Netflix despite Netflix hosting Dave Chappelle. Like, what are we doing?
Wait, yeah, like the problem says in YouTube chat, we have a restaurant run by a human trafficker in my hometown. You tell people about it and say, I don't eat there, and sometimes they join you. Solidarity requires treating people like potential allies. Yes. If you had told people, hey, you know what? Bet. You can buy the game. I'm going to give you the free trans pass to buy this stupid fucking game that you want to play. But guess what? You need to donate to Trevor Project or Mermaids. Same amount of money. Is this game $140 worth for you?
Or, you know what? Let's go watch Hassan stream it instead. You know what? You really want to see it? You know what? I'm curious too. Let's go watch Hassan do it. And let's go donate to charity.
Olivia being a little too spicy, but I appreciate your moxie. But here's my thing. Zena and I have gone over this so much. And I hate all of it.
Well, and it hurts because it's also been, we get to see on the personal level, it starts fucking with people's mental health. Like, you want to see people have to deal with, like, black and white thinking and the effect that that has on, like, our own community and on our allies? No, it sucks.
To be honest, it looked like a slog, but I'd have to watch someone stream it out of curiosity. I'm interested in how an open world can wind up fucking over a game. You know what? The problem? Agreed. Just out of curiosity. But again, ideological purity, bad. Actual praxis, good. But the reason we wanted to bring this up as a separate thing is we wanted the stuff around Brianna to be sacred. Granted, we got into a weird stun lock because transmisogyny always turns into a fucking stun lock. But
well, I think a lot of that one's got a lot of sensitivity around it because maybe we got to do an education stream with it.
We've done a few. We should do more.
Yeah.
But the issue being is that, like, this shouldn't have happened. This woman should have been told she was an idiot, and we moved on. But people decided they didn't care about a 16-year-old girl and instead just ran with this because they wanted to be the ones in the spotlight. Hell, one of my followers, an African-American person, I believe, literally, like, no joke, got so mad at me over this whole discourse that they essentially lashed out at me because I had confused Tamisha with another person in her comments who was actively following numerous, like, GC accounts, like Gender Critical. And I initially claimed that Tamisha was a Gender Critical op. I was in the wrong. I was incorrect. Oops. But the fact is I was incorrect. I wasn't maliciously lying like this person argued. And so the reason I want to bring this to your attention is this is tremendously funny. This was put on the this was put on the Hogwarts Legacy video, and it says, for those who can't read it, Poppy and her performative outrage for clicks and clout. You just can't help yourself. You're nothing more than a bully, Poppy.
Good guess, but actually no.
This shouldn't have happened. This bizarre detraction from this 16-year-old girl's death is, I'm going to be really clear. Either these people are malignantly ignorant or hopelessly malicious. Like, there is no other argument here. To pull away from the important aspects of this situation is insane. And again, I just want to point out, again, one simple thing. Solidarity for or among trans people was always a lie. Trans issues and lives will never be a priority for enough people to matter. Not even among trans people. We can't even mourn our dead without someone enabling transphobia for social capital. We're not going to make it. And we showed this at the beginning of stream, but we're going to show it again for this video because it's very important to my brain. Let's fucking go.
Because you can't impact people who are actually doing your community harm. You can't shame the shameless. Trump will never face justice. Brett Kavanaugh's on the Supreme Court for life. Ben Shapiro gets off on your outrage. So you shame those who can be shamed. And if you call one of us bigoted enough times, people will start to believe it, and then you can feel like you solved racism by spreading lies about a person you have never met and never will, and was doing you and your community no harm. Well done. Shabash. Good job. Fuck every single one of you. You do not deserve grace. You do not deserve sympathy.
We'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. If you want to support the channel further, you could go to patreon.com/ZenaandPoppy, and you could become a patron for as low as $3. If you want to support us further, you could donate below with a super thanks comment, or you could, in fact, even go to our website, which is currently transgrowtherapist.org. You can go there and either donate directly, or you can even get a subscription and get a cool colored name and chat next time we stream. Anyway, thank you again.